everyone. Welcome back to the Spec podcast. It's great to see you here. Jordan, where are we?
We are at the Electrify Expo in Denver at the Stockyards.
At the Stockyards, that's exactly right. Electrify Expo, where we've been outside. Thank you for tuning in. Before we take you on a tour, which is another Spec podcast episode of everything from bikes to scooters to trucks to cars to trailers to everything electric that is here at Electrify Expo Denver, we're going to talk to the CEO who started this all, BJ, and it was 3 years ago that he launched this, and now they have 8 stops across the US. Tesla is a participant at each of them, and it's a pretty big production. What have you noticed so far, Jordan, that
just so many people. It's over 100 degrees and there's still so many people. We couldn't find parking.
Yeah, and a lot of these people might not own electric. They might be EV curious. I think they've done a really good job at not only starting with the early adopters, those people who love electric, but also enticing those who are EV curious. Let's go ahead and get into the interview with BJ. It was a great one. This episode is made possible by the support we get from Fort Collins Kia. If you are in the market for any electric Kia, not only do they never add market adjustments, they will deliver your car to you anywhere in the 48 contiguous states for out-of-spec viewers. More information in the link in the show notes. So we are here now with BJ, founder, and what I hear is really the showrunner of Electrify Expo, very hands-on. And
yeah, I guess.
Yeah?
Right, yeah, pretty much. I mean, we had a good team, but yeah, I'm definitely still in the weeds here.
Yeah, I mean, it's a big production out here. We're in Denver, of course. We're at the where cattle usually is, but now it's filled with electric vehicles. So that's the future of now. But it's been really cool. We've been walking around. We're going to have a tour of the whole event. We've got everything from bikes to scooters to cars to trucks to trailers and everything in between. If I didn't mention it, conversions, fully built from the ground up electric. And you started Electrify Expo. How? Why?
Well, so here we are. We're at Electrify Expo Denver, which is the Stockyards. So this venue's been around for 100 years, and like you said, it was all about cattle. But they've turned the venue into a million square feet of space for us to activate, to allow people to come and experience all things electric for the first time. So, this really started because I was a car guy and I hated EVs. I always felt like if, you couldn't hear the rumble of a V8 or the sing of an inline-4 turbo, you would never get me behind the wheel of that car. I always looked at EVs as lacking a soul. And that was before I ever drove one. Mm-hmm. So I finally drove one. I'm like, boom, light bulb moment, had it all wrong. And that was part of the genesis of starting Electrify Expo was, look, you can hear from, auto manufacturer TV ads, you can read it online, you can look at a print ad, but until you really experience an EV, you don't really get it, at least for me. And I knew that there were more people like me out there, and that's the whole idea of Electrify Expo, is just to provide a million square feet of experiences. We don't tell people they need to go electric. We give people experiences to have their light bulb moments in electric cars, electric trucks, e-bikes, scooters, skateboards, in some cases watercraft. And then when they have that experience, they have their light bulb moment, and then they're fully in on electric. So we've been growing quite a bit. It's been 3.5 years in, and the festival is certainly a lot different than it was 3.5 years ago.
Can you tell me more about that? What was the first inaugural Electrify Expo like, and compared to now? Yeah,
I think any small business owner, you look back on the first thing that you started, and that's when you're at your worst. We were in a grass field in Orange County, California, and fortunately we had the buy-in from a few of the auto manufacturers, but this festival really exists because of the auto manufacturer support. So, back then, I think we had 3 or 4 auto brands that were supporting us. This year we have over 20. Yeah. So things have changed a lot for sure. And it was a great jumping off point. But what we learned in the first couple years of Electrify Expo, which I think your audience might appreciate, is people who are coming to our festival were very much of the early adopters of EVs, and they were sustainability or eco-conscious minded, and so they were pretty much kind of advocates and enthusiasts of electric vehicles. And so this was a great place for them to experience everything in one place. Mm-hmm. But then, like last year, everything changed. We moved through that wave of consumer, and they had already made their decision to go electric. Mm-hmm. which was fun because we talked shop with that audience. It was about ampage and kilowatts, and they understood it. But now, at the beginning of 2024, it is now just a general mainstream American consumer who is e-curious, and they're just coming to Electrify Expo to check out this whole electric thing. They don't talk in ampage or kilowatts. If you do, they turn it off.
Yeah.
So, but there's still very essential questions that they need to get answered in order for them to feel comfortable about going electric, and that's why they come here.
That transition, like you're talking about, this inflection point from, the early adopter to the EV curious to people who will just like come and check it out, who might hate it, who might just be curious, but either way, you get them in front of something. How did that switch happen? Was it because the automakers started to see what you were doing and then big names started to come, so maybe that drew more people in? What was your strategy?
Well, I think the industry has played into it. So for many years, this was a one-horse race, and Tesla dominated. They were pretty much the only really relevant, strong offering out there, and they inundated the electric vehicle space with great products. But then over the past 2 years, the other automakers have come online with really great products. So you not only have that passenger car now, but now you can get into a 3-row SUV, you can get into a compact SUV, you can get into all these different models of vehicles. So the industry has become a lot more competitive, and I think all of those offerings have really opened up people's eyes to be like, I could probably see, I could see myself in that car, but I don't really understand the technology. I don't know what it means to fill up. And so they need to get those questions answered. So I think the automakers have had the biggest role in just kind of growing the industry with all the product that they've been putting into the marketplace. Yeah,
diversifying it beyond Tesla is important. I mean, I still get the question almost every day is like, I want to go electric, but what is there besides Tesla?
Exactly.
And then that also highlights that there is a huge portion of our population who don't know a lot about electric vehicles, and it does get techie, and we get techie, but you don't have to get techie. So what do you do to invite people who are EV curious to learn more? Like, how do you do the information spreading at this event that's like digestible?
Yeah, we have a science to how we attract people here. What we try to do is we try to find people who have had some sort of digital footprint for being interested in going electric. So they might be on a certain site, they might be shopping, they might have commented about electric vehicles. And so we're able to kind of look at the ecosystem in the US and then obviously regionalize that for our events and then bring people in who are primarily mid-purchase funnel or bottom of the purchase funnel. That said, there are plenty of skeptics that come to our show, just like me. I was a skeptic, right? So there's plenty of skeptics that come to our show, and my most rewarding thing is watching those people leave, because it's like I can see what's happened. Like they've transitioned just by being here and having that moment. And sometimes it happens in a really wild experience, like hopping into a Tesla Model Plaid and going 0 to 60 in 1.9 seconds, and it's kind of like, okay, I had no idea. Yeah. But then there are other experiences that we have here that, not everybody is here for a thrill ride experience. Some people just want to understand the tech or understand how to charge or make sure that they feel comfortable this car will have the range that they need. And then they have their own light bulb moments in their own way, and it seems to be working. So we're an 8-stop festival now. We'll produce over 250,000 demo rides this year of people who are pretty much having first-time experiences. And like I said, it seems to be the best way to get people to go electric. And I think right now, the industry is really failing on messaging to this new consumer because a lot of the messaging is surrounded around things that were relevant to buyers 2 or 3 years ago or 5 years ago, and which is not relevant to those consumers today.
How would you say that's distinct now?
Well, my position on this is the more that we make EVs about climate change, the more we alienate future buyers from going EV. Because like me, I had my light bulb moment due to something totally unrelated to making a environmentally responsible decision. So that was the byproduct. Like I bought an EV, and the byproduct of that was I was making that decision, which is great, and I realize that now. But at the time of purchase, for me, it was totally unrelated to that. So the more that we have messaging that ties EVs solely or mostly to environmental reasons, the more we're taking an audience who could be interested in EVs and either making them more skeptical about EVs or just not appealing to what they really want to hear, which is the features and benefits of the vehicle, the technology, the affordability, the lease offers, whatever it is, right? That's what we need to be doing.
Completely. I agree. It's, it can be polarizing if you come at it from one angle, and it did originate as like the climate change solution, electric vehicles, but just like your story and like so many other people's story once you sit in an EV and you have fun, or you enjoy the experience or the tech or the feel or like the simplicity, the quietness, how cold the AC is. Like those experiences what makes you like, okay, wow, and there's great leases and I could buy it. So the messaging I do think is really important. And so you are playing a role in that a bit where it's like this, you're here to be curious about the
I mean, we don't tell people
to
to go electric here. Like we're just giving them experiences to make their own decision, and I think that's what we really need to be doing. Like, we need to be able to these manufacturers who are making EVs need to be able to play in the sandbox with all offerings. So in many cases it's actually not a good use case for somebody to go fully electric. It may be a better use case for that person to be plug-in hybrid, right? So we have to make sure that we are giving those opportunities. And the issue has been, especially lately, we're in an election year. It's become politicized. It's like the more that part of the audience feels mandated to go this direction, the more skeptical they feel about going in that direction. So really, what we need to do is just kind of take a step back as an industry. And I don't think the industry is doing so much of this as it is maybe more of the political messaging and the administration that's really pushing some of this environmental messaging, as well as the state mandates, that's driving more consumers to be skeptical. We need to step away from that and appeal to those buyers differently. Because at the end of the day, look, I want to help these manufacturers sell more EVs too, but we have to message this differently if we want to grow as an industry.
And I feel like you're probably collecting and got a lot of good information on that. And you said you're 8 stops. So I'm curious about where these 8 stops are, because I mean, we're in Colorado right now, pretty EV positive state, but where else do y'all go?
Yeah, well, okay, so we go to, so the way that we pick markets is by EV hand raiser data and EV registration data. So we know based on a heat map where the most EV interest is, and then we consult with our partners, and we start to pick markets. So of course we're in California, in Southern California and in Northern California. So we have a stop in LA, a stop in San Francisco, and then we have another stop in Seattle. So you can kind of start to see a pattern. Like these are the markets that have gravitated towards EVs. But I think Denver was a little bit of a not a risk, but like an interesting market for us to go to. Sure, there is a lot of EV interest here, but if you look at the smile of the US, like that's typically where most of the adoption is happening. And there's still a lot of technology challenges facing cold weather climates and EVs, and that's just a real world challenge that battery tech will fix going forward. But right now, as you move to colder parts of the country, there is a negative impact on range for these vehicles. Were you aware of that?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, for sure. So that's like a real thing. So I think for us to come to Denver, I think we do hear things like, hey, how is this car going to perform in the winter, right? And that's a real question that that the automakers have to answer. So so we head to Denver. We're having a great show here right now. We also go to Austin, Texas. We go to New York. We go to Florida. So we try to hit these different markets, and then next year we'll pepper in some new ones.
Are you seeing different trends across the nation as you go around?
It's just different people.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know about the trends, but I'm not an expert really in any of this. I feel like I'm novice compared to probably a lot of your audience who could talk circles around me. But I do talk to a lot of consumers, and so if I'm an expert in anything, it's just listening to what consumers want and what their what their challenges are, what their concerns are, and the things that I'm sharing with you now about hey, I have no environmental interest in like this purchase has no impact on me. Like I'm not making this decision because of environmental reasons, or I really am skeptical about this because I feel like the government is telling me that I have to drive electric and I have no choice. Like these are real things that happen to us, not just here in Denver, but all over the country. So I that's what I am. I feel like an expert in is just listening and then just sharing what I'm hearing.
I think that's super important, because if you're gonna appeal to people, meet them where they are.
For sure.
This is very new technology, no matter how in the weeds that we get. You
we're
gotta
still
go
new.
big picture, right? Jordan.
Yeah, so as someone who really pays attention to the consumers, I mean, do you see a difference in what the automakers are pushing or the politics are pushing versus what the consumers are wanting?
I don't see the messaging that I'm seeing from automakers is pretty good right now. And it's not necessarily following the same messaging lines that we're hearing in the media. So, for example, Lexus has a tagline right now for their EV lineup that is as electric as you want to be. That's the right message. And I see more and more automakers taking that sort of messaging route. And that's where we need to go in order to appeal to a broader base of customers who are going to drive broader EV adoption.
Yeah. So you do see kind of the, seems like people almost gravitate to division sometimes, which is frustrating being in this industry. And we do see people who are hyper like, oh, you have to be EV, or like you're with us or you're against us. But I agree, there's a lot of variation within that. Even if you pick an EV, there's like really high range ones versus lower range ones because you just don't need that much battery. And we're kind of in this phase of everyone saying, oh, I need a 400 or 500 mile car. When a lot of gas cars don't even go that far. But I get it, it's a really quick fill up. But I wonder how many people you see is like, what's holding them back from the EV purchase right now? Is it the range, is it the charging, or the fear of all the unknown?
Three things. It's the fear of the unknown because change is uncomfortable. So the first time you buy an EV, there is some uncomfortability with the charging side of things and the range, but you nestle into a very comfortable zone of like, oh, I really don't drive that far after all. And if I am going to drive cross country, then there are options for me if I don't want to take my fully electric vehicle cross country. And the other two would be what I mentioned earlier, is that there is a natural skepticism happening right now in the market that is not helping drive broader EV adoption. So those are some of the things that we need to work on. But the automakers actually have done an amazing job over the last few years to retool their business plans and strategies, manufacturing facilities. They've invested hundreds of billions of dollars to do this. And now we have models across the entire spectrum of cars and trucks. Now we have to get EV infrastructure rolled out. That's the third thing that is really hurting EV adoption, is the rollout of EV infrastructure. So I think the more that we can put that into the hands of the private sector, the faster that infrastructure will be rolled out.
Yeah, I agree. I was thinking about that today, where I was like, Tesla obviously did it really well, but they did put their own money behind all the infrastructure because it makes sense. How are we going to get people to buy these cars if they can't charge them on the road? And we've had the charge point operators do it, but they also aren't selling the cars. And then now the automakers are stepping in and trying to build out their own networks, as late as it is. But so that makes me think you started. You're here now, things have grown, you've learned more about the messaging, and now you're learning about all the moving parts, including charging infrastructure. So looking forward, do you see including more of that, the charging aspect into it, or are you keeping it more about the things with wheels?
Oh, no, definitely not. Like that's a whole education element that Electrify Expo has today. In fact, Amazon came in this year just to create they call it the Amazon Recharge Zone, but basically it's just an education platform where we put experts on a panel and they talk about all things charging or range or battery tech, so that consumers can sit in and listen to experts talk about the real challenges that are facing the industry and get the information they need. So no, it's education's a key element of our festival, and it's what's going to help drive broader EV adoption, is getting people, kind of breadcrumbing people through this idea that, hey, it's not as difficult as you think it is.
Come on, come over. It's fun over here. It really is. What do you drive?
I have an all-electric Porsche.
Nice.
Yeah, I love it. Yeah.
That sounds really nice.
It was my first EV, believe it or not. I bought it 2.5 years ago or so, maybe a little bit longer than that. It was my first fully electric vehicle. And I was worried about, some things that some customers that come into Electrify Expo are worried about. But, I've had that car for 2.5 years. I've charged in the wild once, which, that pretty much says it all. It's like, you don't, unless you're going on a cross-country trip, you don't really drive as much as you think you drive. Yeah. Even though you want that comfort of that 400 or 500 mile range, which I feel like is becoming more popular in some of the EVs that are coming out now and in the future, the truth is you just don't drive that much. So being able to have a fueling station at home every day is something that is super convenient and wipes out that range anxiety. But there are 50% of the American public that don't charge at home. So rolling out that EV infrastructure is going to be essential to, getting over that hurdle.
And diversified as well. It doesn't all have to be fast. We need slower charging too. We need it at multi-unit housing and everything. But yeah, it is absolutely essential. And yeah, I think this is a really cool event where people can come and see it live. They can talk to the automakers, they can talk to experts, they can talk to your representatives, obviously Amazon Recharge, like get all the information here, and hopefully you keep enticing more and more people across the US to come and hang out.
There's more auto manufacturers rolling out new products next year. We have, Chinese auto manufacturers who are going to be coming to market soon, and other automakers that are coming into the market. So the industry is just going to become more competitive, and there's really no other place like Electrify Expo. There are other, opportunities to go test drive something or demo something, but a lot of times they're not in real world environments. They might be in the basement of a convention center.
Sure.
And you really that actually does a disservice to the industry, is to have a test drive in the basement of a convention center, because for everybody who's been hearing the hype about electric vehicles, right? And then they go take a test drive in the basement of the convention center. We see it all the time. They come back from that experience and they tell their social circle and their friends, hey, I tried the electric thing. It really wasn't all that. It's because the experience is so important. So you got to be able to give people real world experiences in these products so that they can really understand the benefits of going electric. So yeah, we have a special thing, and we're also focusing in on e-bikes, and a lot of electric motorcycle manufacturers are coming online now. Like next year is a big year for electric motorcycles and side-by-sides, personal watercraft, like a lot of really cool stuff is coming down the pipe.
It's really cool. Yeah, I'm so excited to see more and more competition in this market that has happened in other markets, like the Chinese market is incredible, and see that happen here and really have the competition drive more and more options, because I think that's what people want too, is not just one option, which there's a lot more now. But yeah,
competition's crucial. And I mean, notoriously for a long time, Tesla was like, we don't spend any money on marketing and we don't play in the shows, we just keep to ourselves. And now here's Tesla here officially.
All 8 stops last year and this year. I think that's a testament to the team and what we've built here and the idea. But Tesla tells us that they sell more vehicles here per day than any other marketing mechanism that they may have or any other show. So I think that they're very specific in what type of marketing and advertising money that they do have, where they spend it, and they spend it here because they're moving metal.
Right.
That's a good stat to throw around. That's pretty good. Yeah, I've really enjoyed it. Okay, so where do y'all go next?
For 2025, we have a couple new markets that we're eyeing.
Ooh.
So what we like to do is we like to keep going to the staple markets, and then pepper in some new markets, and then kind of swap those out every other year.
Because that would be fun to see. Like this one, there's not a huge EV adoption, adoption rates here, but let's go there. Yeah. Like let's sneak ourselves into.
Like Memphis, Tennessee.
Yeah, like Memphis,
that's where Francie's from. I love Tennessee. I love Nashville, but we definitely see ourselves coming into the Midwest more. So you could expect to see us there next year.
Oh, cool. Yeah. Thank you so much for your time, BJ. We're going to go and walk around, take the tour. So stay tuned for that. But really appreciate your time, your energy, not only right here, but I know how valuable this is because you also spend it putting on this really awesome show.
Thanks. Glad to do it.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks, everyone. We'll see you next time. Bye-bye.